we alone? It's a question that mankind has asked itself since time immemorial. And it's a question that's gained recent renewed traction for the first time in hundreds, if not thousands of years. For uncounted millennia, mankind has been content with the knowledge that we, as a race, are essentially alone. The only other creatures out there are the animals, the creatures that we hunt and outsmart. We've surpassed them a long time ago with our rational intellect, with our tool use, and science's perspective on this has been that this makes us the pinnacle of evolution, and by extension, of existence itself. I'm not sure how much I agree with that. All one need do is take a week-long camping trip to see that the anatomically modern human is a fragile, naked, vulnerable thing, even in the loving arms of Mother Nature. So how can this be? If we evolved here, just like all the animals and the plants did, how are they so at home here? And how are we so not? Today's guest is here to tell us there is a reason for that, and that we are indeed not alone. Not in this universe, not on this planet, not even on this continent are we alone. Welcome to the first official episode of Cosmiq Generation. I'm your guide, Shaman Cosmiq. If you enjoy content like this, please do me a favor and hit the like button and subscribe and hit the bell icon if you'd like to be notified about future episodes. My guest today is a social scientist and holds degrees from Greenfield Community College, Massachusetts, University of New Hampshire, North Adams State College, Massachusetts, and University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. He taught anthropology at North Adams State College, and as an anthropologist, conducted an ethnographic study in conjunction with the Colombian Institute of Anthropology at Bogotá. He lived with the Ticuna tribe of Upper Amazonia, so he's a highly credentialed, experienced scientist. Now, thusly qualified, it's also in the right subject, right? Anthropology, the natural healing arts and sciences. Psychic studies. He even taught at the Wisconsin Society for Psychic Research, taught dowsing, psychic development. This unique set of attributes makes our guest both scientifically minded, but also open to understanding the paranormal experiences other scientists tend to shelve when doing this type of research. This unique combination of perspective, experience, and credentials makes our guest the authority on this particular subject. You'd be hard-pressed to find anyone thusly qualified in this field or in any other. It's crucial to understand this because I really want folks to recognize this gentleman is the person most qualified to educate the public on this particular matter. This is part one of my interview with Mr. Kewaunee Lapseritis. Enjoy.
Thanks very much for joining me today, Kewaunee. I really appreciate it. Physically, can you describe the Sasquatch? I mean, how big are they? Are they human-sized? And physically, paranormally, I've heard they have abilities. Can you tell us a little about them?
Yes, they said that they were bioengineered by friendly ETs millions of years ago, that they were genetically engineered to survive in raw nature. So they have an animal-like quality, even though they're not animals, in order to survive. They can kill anything easily, a bear, anything. They can control their body temperature. So when it's super cold out, they can warm up their bodies just by thinking. They were made to be large, and the average seems to be between 8 and 10 feet tall. I've seen them 7 feet tall, 12 feet tall. Some have seen them 15 and 18 feet tall. It's rare, but they reported to me they saw them that large.
You mentioned several types of forest people. Are they all covered in hair or fur, or are they like maybe reptile, or are there other types of nature people? There's
several different types of forest people. There's the Sasquatch people that have a sagittal crest or peaked head, and they have a face that's very ape-like, even though they're not apes, and their arms go down to their knees. This is the Sasquatch people. Then there's the ancient ones. The ancient ones also have hair all over their bodies, are also giants. They have a round head like us, not a peaked head. And they have human faces, and their arms don't go down to their knees. They are in proportion to their body like ours. They said the genetic material was taken from the ancient ones with a human face that at a distance look like a Sasquatch, just at a glance, that they genetically engineered us, Homo sapiens, taking some of the DNA from the ancient ones. Anyway, this is what they said. I can't prove that, but they've never lied to me, so I take this as truth. They don't care about religion, but they care about a higher being that they honor, and they love nature and they honor nature. Every one of them is somewhat different. I remember going on a hike with a new lady friend that I had about 25 years ago. And afterwards, I know where there's a real nice Italian restaurant, and we've been hiking all day. Let's get something to eat. And she says, no, I don't like Italian food. I just sort of assumed that most people do. She did not like Italian food. Well, and that's her preference. And we ended up going to a Chinese restaurant. But my point is, Sasquatch and the ancient ones are the same way. A woman in Texas made this real nice chicken sandwich with whole wheat bread and real nice, and put it out for them. They never touched it. Didn't like it. And so she ended up giving it to her dogs. Then a few days later, she put out spaghetti, and they ate the spaghetti. You know, I'm not sure how, I guess with their fingers, but they like the spaghetti. So wait a minute, they have a preference. If you lined up 10 crocodiles and you try to tell me which one won't eat you, sorry, they all will, you know, because it's based on instinct, where these forest people, each one has their own individual preferences. So anyhow, it's the same. They are, why? Because they're a people. They're a people, and we must learn to respect people. Now, I mentioned that they're spiritual, of a spiritual nature. Spirituality has nothing to do with religion, even though many people that join a religion become spiritual. That is, having respect for all living things. And that's what's important. And to have that in your heart, the Sasquatch can read that and will want to befriend you often. So there's all kinds of situations where they befriended and helped people. Why? Well, they're a mirror again. If that person's a good person, or they see a Sasquatch and they say, wow, there's a Sasquatch. How neat, how cool. And if they're fishing, some people just left the fish there for them. Hey, that's a very good idea. That shows friendship, because we got a bad rap. The humans have a bad rap in their camp, you know. And I can't blame them, because when the pioneers showed up and they started hunting in the forest for deer and stuff, whenever they saw a Sasquatch, they'd shoot at it. Wow, what a fine how do you do is that, huh? So right away, we came to have a negative reputation, because it spreads. Stay away from these white people. They've got some kind of apparatus that can kill you. Stay away from them. So now they don't want anything to do with us, other than they'll selectively choose people of a spiritual ilk, because they know they're safe and they can read them, you know, very easily. They can project themselves and into the person's mind, literally. And listen, some of these people also contacted me and said, I can't believe it. They followed me home. It woke me up at night. I said, yeah. Isn't this something cool or new? No, they've been doing it to me for several decades, you know. In Kentucky, about 25 years ago, there were 2 women living in a cabin on a river in the wilderness. And the Sasquatch drove them out for whatever reason. I have no idea. And they told me, the women said that they had fangs. Well, I know nothing about Sasquatch with big fangs, but there's some Sasquatch that are 3-toed, a few that are 4-toed, and then there's some 5-toed, and I think there was a couple reports of a 6-toed. So what's that about? Well, you know, that's maybe, I don't know this, that the ETs that genetically engineered them, experimented and added or took away a toe or two. I don't know, or did they just goof, which is possible. And therefore just in their feet that they came out that way. It seems east of the Mississippi, especially along the coast, that a lot of the Sasquatch that are being reported are, many of them anyway, three-toed. And the toes are huge, the three-toed ones. So does that mean this is a subspecies? Does it mean that or are they just the same and they just happen to have, less toes? I can't answer that, but that is a phenomena anyway that has come up again and again about their feet. And also, they don't like to be called Bigfoot.
They've told
so
me
a lot of these people. I have a Bigfoot center. Yeah, their feet are not big to them. They're in proportion to their body, and so the way that a lot of humans refer to them, it's derogatory. Bigfoot, Bigfoot, So they want to be called Sasquatch or forest people. I emphasize the word people because that's who they are. The ancient ones, as a forest people, I've seen the women, and they're beautiful. It has nothing to do with the Sasquatch that looks more ape-like. That these ancient ones are nice-looking people. And one asked me if I could come up with her, and she wanted to make love to me, with me, and I said no at the time.
She was your size?
I joke about that sometimes.
She wasn't like 12 feet tall or anything?
Pardon?
She wasn't like 12 feet tall or anything?
No, she was 5.5 feet tall. She was young, and I told her no. But when I'm lecturing, sometimes I joke and say, well, though I didn't, maybe I should have gone ahead and done it just for science. I should have had a tussle in the hay with her just for science. But joking aside, they've had hybrid humans, as well. So several times in their history, they've had humans hybrid because they miscegenated and interbred. So why? Because we've got similar DNA. If we didn't have that, we wouldn't be able to do anything, and they wouldn't be human, but they are human. You can't do that with an anthropoid ape. Of course not. It won't work. So
this stuff about
so that's
them
to me that's proof that they are human.
Some folks would say that they think the Sasquatch are fallen angels or demons, and when you're having a conversation with one, what tells you that you're not dealing with something that's deceiving or something?
I mean, you could say all kinds of stuff. I mean, some people, one minister said, well, in the Bible, they talk about the giants. It's the Sasquatch. And that's not true at all. Down in Biloxi, Texas, in limestone, there are 24-inch human tracks with dinosaur tracks beside them. And I asked the Sasquatch, is that your people or is that hairless giants? And they said, oh no, it's our people. It says the hairless giants came much later than that. And then later, your people were created. When the Spanish came to America and went up the Mississippi, the priest that was with them wrote down that they saw hundreds of giants on shore going up the Mississippi, that they were tribes of them. What happened to them? I don't have an answer, but they were there, and many tribes, even the Cherokee, said that one day all these giants showed up. They were kind, And so they kept them in the village there and interacted with them. And they told them we came from a far, far, long ways away. And then they left and they never saw the giants again. They talk about the little people as well and so on. So I know humans that have seen, and these people didn't make it up, the little people. So there's all these different types of forest people out there, and they seem to be all over the world, but they're different races of little people and so on. One of the things that an ancient one, it was a woman shaman, her name was Halodi, and Halodi said that in the fall of the year that they would meet with the Sasquatch people. She was an ancient one, met with the Sasquatch people, and then the little people, and they'd have a feast and with corn and stuff, and then they would trade. The little people had all kinds of gemstones that they mined. Sasquatch can come in and out and dematerialize. I've seen an ancient one dematerialize, and I saw a Sasquatch dematerialize in front of me. So that's twice, part of being interdimensional. They told me they have access to 8 different dimensions. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So I'm having trouble with this dimension, so I don't know how they're dealing with all that.
If they're people, Kewaunee, and they're so advanced, why don't we see the Sasquatch people using a cell phone or making technology? Doesn't that make us the smarter one? Doesn't it make us more advanced?
They don't need technology. It's like almost as if they have an organic cell phone already in their brain, because they can contact any other people all over. They can contact, telepath to other beings, other forest people in Indonesia, in China, in the Himalayas, anywhere else in the world. They can do it very easily, just through mental telepathy. So they don't need cell phones that are frying people's brains. They have automatically all this already organically in their system. They're that evolved. Most Sasquatch researchers can't wrap their brain around that these beings, that's who they are. They're that far ahead of us. This universe has been ongoing. Where have we been? We didn't come from monkeys and apes. That's the Darwinian thing is in question. Evolution is happening, but there's been this intervention going on by these evolved friendly star people, ETs. And I asked Halodi, I said, how come they're doing this? This is her answer. It's commanded by God to do that. When Pope John II, John Paul, died, this woman who had been interacting with the Sasquatch and the ancients, when she went outside to work in the garden, one of the ancient ones says, I see the Pope has gone to see God. And she said, how do you know that? Because it just happened, how would she know? And she said, God told Andan, her father, who was the head of the clan. Keep in mind, prayer is talking to God or talking to the universe. Meditation is quieting the intellect, listening to the universe. And that's where many shamans and spiritually minded people get answers. I mean, when I started having experiences with the psychic Sasquatch, I started to read books on quantum physics, because this phenomena is really a combination of anthropology and quantum physics. It's science that they're in denial of. You know why? Because we needed a body. Sorry, when I did an ethnographic study amongst the Ticuna Indians of Upper Amazonia, a place called the Upper Rio Lorete Yacu, this is in Colombia on the Peruvian border. That was in 1973. When I went into the village, I brought fish hooks, I brought a machete, 100-pound nylon test line. I brought all these different things, a knife for them and stuff, to trade and to show my friendship. I didn't bring a gun and point it in their face and say, hey, you need to let me stay here, blah, blah, blah. I did it through friendship. All these so-called experts, they're really neophytes with big egos. They need to be challenged. And all I'm saying is they've been coming to me now for 47 years.
The Sasquatch
Hey,
people.
there's something so there's something I'm doing right. ETs still come to me as well. I've seen 7 different races of people. When I had a conference before the pandemic, 4 years in a row, the last conference was held 23 miles away from my home in the wilderness here. We've got bears, mountain lion, packs of wolves here, everything. So it's very wild. And where we had the conference, every night I had to come down at a different time, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 10:30, and so on. And for 4 nights in a row, a spaceship followed me all the way home. So wherever I was coming down out of the mountains at 3,500 feet, I could look out to the right and see the ship following me. And when I finally got home, I had to cross a big, huge field before going back into the forest. And I looked up, and there it was hovering over my house. They did this 4 nights in a row. 4 nights in a row in order to give me support. And that was their way of showing their support for me discussing the Bigfoot UFO connection that's absolutely real. Again, I cannot prove it, and that's what they want. Well, how do you prove that? Do I hold a gun to an ET's head and say, hey, come on, you've got to come with me to make sure I can prove it? I mean, that's ridiculous, of course. So there's a way to take a leap of faith if it will lead to communication, and that communication would lead possibly to the real proof that they want, but in a friendly way. You've got to start out by being respectful, by starting out with your field research, with friendship, with an open heart. And now, I mean, the Sasquatch and the ancient ones tell me, they say, we love you. And I tell them back, I love them. And if that sounds airy-fairy and you're a researcher, then you need to do something else. Like I said, join the Boy Scouts, because you'll never, ever, ever you'd just be wasting your time, or maybe just go out and have fun, find a few tracks, and that's fine. I solved the phenomenon by saying they're psychic, they're a people. Yeah, it's been 44 years ago. So all this time I've been successful. In fact, I just got off the phone with somebody that thanked me because I helped them connect by teaching them telepathy. I can find them anywhere in the world. I don't care if it's in Russia, China, don't care. I can locate them and pinpoint them. They gave me that ability. So this person called, thanked me, and there's a doctor in Vermont, an MD, wanted to connect with them. So I told him where they were and how many were there, and taught him how to telepath. So he went up into the forest, and it started snowing because it was in the fall. And this was up close to Mount Washington, there in the White Mountains that went through New Hampshire and Vermont there. Anyway, he said, well, now I can't do anything till the spring. I said, no, you can still do it. You telepath every evening once you climb into bed, before you go to sleep. So he did. And he only did it for a couple of nights. And then while he was telepathing, he heard a thumping sound of a giant man walking down his hallway. And it walked right into his bedroom. And I said, well, then what'd you do? I said, did you start communication with them and ask questions? He said, no, I was too scared. I couldn't believe that reality. That says you were accurate in what you told me to do, but I just wasn't ready. And I said, well, you're almost there. Now you just have to work on your fear. They know you're fearful. That's why they didn't stick around to try to scare you. because that isn't what they're trying to do. They scare people out of areas when they have their family there, or them and their family found a lot of food and they're busy, and some people show up on a camping area. They bring a pistol or a .22 rifle for target shooting or whatever. They don't want them around, so they scare them out of there. You know, they don't harm them in any way. And so this is part of how they deal with us. But anyway, so I get one successful situation after another because I've been helping people connect. Guess what? The experts, I guess, which they're really not, won't do my program. They won't do any of that because it sounds too airy-fairy. And they label me, I'm one of the woo-woo people. Fine. Hey, I like to be called a successful woo-woo person, if you're going to call me a woo-woo, because I'm successful and they are not successful. They're too busy criticizing and judging and all this stuff as if they know, and they don't know. They don't know anything. If you don't have communication with them and you're not talking to them, learning from them, then you're not an expert, because you're just making stuff up. It's just fabrication. And again, all ego. A lot of ego out there, folks. A lot of ego. So
course,
I need to say that. I say that respectfully, but I still say it, because it's the truth. It's all I'm into is truth.
Of course, and of course, for the sake of the interview, I'm asking from the perspective of an ignorant layperson. But count me among those white crows, because after reading your book and learning, your method that you put in there about how to telepath and everything. After reading your book and reading the method on how to telepath, I had an experience right away like that, like a big thump, and then in a dream, and it was incredible, and it really kind of set my life in the direction it's been. So we're just now connecting with, science doesn't yet believe. There's a lot of non-believers in Sasquatch and a lot of things out there, but is this just now something new to humanity, or have we had a connection with the Sasquatch people in the past?
Well, first of all, I feel that the science needs to change the paradigm that they're using to include psychic phenomena. Again, it's quantum physics, but they're not giving it they're not making that connection. So why? Because then it's just like what I'll have to paraphrase, but what Tesla said, something to the effect, the day that science starts looking at non-ordinary phenomena, invisible phenomena, more seriously, they will make leaps and bounds in 1 decade than they have all during all these years of millennia of science. That's when science started, 250 years ago or some such thing. So it's true. Of course it's true. But the more we ignore it and we say, they say, well, we can only see 3% of what's really around us. Probably it's closer to 0.5% or something, that we're giving ourselves a little extra there. And when we really don't know what we're doing. And here we have a phenomena that we can find out more about quantum physics and grow from it, but we're too busy trying to kill or murder these forest beings rather than learning from them. And they've said over and over again to me over the years, we want to help your people, but they're afraid of us, and then they want to kill us. So we have no interest. And there's several members of different clans have left the clan, and they were upset that even I have put out so much information. They are upset because they were wounded or shot at or hunted down So they don't want to share anything. So these beings are different than the regular Sasquatch. They have a chip on their shoulder, but no different than if you go on an Indian reservation, that you may not be welcome if you're a white person. Why? Because of what white people did. They don't trust a non-Indian anymore. Well, wait a minute. If you go into Harlem or different places where black people are living, Afro-Americans, it's the same thing. They just got a bad rap from the way they were treated. I mean, my God, it's to think back, the slavery and all that, that's horrible. And yet, again, and what we did to when the Chinese came over to work the railroads, we just treated them like subhumans. So all these beings know that. They watched what the white people did. It brought over this attitude, this negative attitude on racism from Europe. And when Darwin said, wait a minute, this is how people evolved and so on, they used that against Afro-American people. So, oh, see, they're Charles Darwin was right. You know, the Afro-American people have not evolved enough. They're still kind of in a monkey stage kind of thing. Well, how insulting, how stupid. But they rationalized. See, it's okay. They're supposed to be like that, which of course is pure baloney and really racist statement. So when are we going to grow up spiritually? Because it's a spiritual thing. We need to grow up spiritually and wake up and start treating people equally.
That's going to conclude part 1 of our interview, and I want to thank everybody for joining us for this first official long-form episode. Now, I'll have part 2 up within the week, and that's the posting schedule that I'm going to try and stick to, at least for the time being. Had some medical stuff occur recently and surgery as well, and I'm only just now recouping to be able to finish editing this video and resume posting again, so apologies for that. We should be on a once a week schedule as far as long form episodes, and I'll still try and do a Sasquatch message of the day maybe 3 times a week or so. So really looking forward to that. Now, if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below, and I look forward to answering any questions you have or LOLing any jokes you might make. If you enjoyed today's show, go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell icon if you want to be notified about any future episodes, and we look forward to seeing you on the conclusion to our exciting interview with Mr. Kewaunee Lapseritis. I'm your guide, Shaman Cosmiq, and we are the Cosmiq Generation.